Welcome to Conversations With. My name is Shaley Hoogendoorn, and I live with bipolar 2 disorder. Sharing with others is healing, both individually and collectively. Sharing our stories will educate others, bring more understanding, shed more light, and smash more stigma. Our voices need to be heard. Our stories aren't over yet. This is Bipolar. Hi, everyone. Just before we start the show, I wanted to let you know that these episodes are called Going Deeper. I started recording them a year and a half ago, not sure if I was going to start a Patreon, and then subscriptions came along on Instagram, and I decided that the subscribers are going to get these episodes 4 weeks before everybody else. But I have a whole backlog of them. So I wanted to start sharing them with you all. They are inspiring and powerful and interesting and brave. And what I love about it is that there is an episode telling this person's entire story. And then we do the going deeper on a specific topic. And so when these come up, I really encourage you to go back and watch the original Conversations With episode with each of these guests, and then going deeper, because you might get confused, or you might just want to know more about them. And so another thing is, you might hear language like Patreon, or you might hear me say, we just recorded, or the last recording, because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with them at the time. And so I'm so excited to get them out there. Take care of yourself, take some deep breaths, and let's go deeper together. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the segment. This is Bipolar that I'm calling Going Deeper. And if you haven't already, I need you to go back and listen to the podcast before this. I am talking to Hannah Blum, who is a writer and an activist, and she is amazing. She lives with bipolar 2 disorder as well as me, and we have just had such a powerful conversation. I'm like on a little bit of a exciting high inspiration about it all, and I just want to keep it going. So thank you for doing this extra part with us. And I was just immersing myself in your work, and I was just this theme of self-love. It's something that I know so many struggle with. I know that I have struggled with it, and I would just love to talk about a little bit more. And I'm curious how you define self-love. And then I would love to talk about how you started loving yourself, or what things we can do and your beliefs around it. I would just love to give you the mic on that.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Here, let me see. I got to keep on track. But self-love. Oh, it's a word that we hear all the time, right? But like, what does it really mean? How do you really get there? It's a tragic thing that it is one of the hardest things to love yourself. It is the easiest thing to hate yourself.
True.
And I know, and anybody that's listening, if many of you may be able to relate, self-love was just not even in my vocabulary. Picking out every flaw, everything about myself I hated. Nothing is ever good enough. Nothing is ever good enough. If someone rejects me, it means I'm ugly. It means I'm fat. It means I'm this, I'm a loser. These are things that we say to ourselves. It's so hard, especially today, to really fall in love with yourself. And of course, for men as well, but I am going to say, for women too, there's an added layer of it.
Yes.
So I've always struggled with it, self-hate, having an eating disorder, even harming myself because I had such a deep self-hate. It's just the idea of being confident, the idea of feeling worthy was just so far from me. I think why, now looking at it, and the journey kind of leading up, I mean, is a long one, but from the other podcast, you can kind of see of going through the ups and downs, accepting my condition, and just in general accepting who I am. But I look and I realize, and this was part of the first book I wrote, that it's the truth about broken. It's the unfixed version of self-love. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because that was a time that I realized what the problem was, is we are always waiting to reach something, the perfect weight, when we get the career, when we no longer have a mental illness, or if you don't, like if you're watching this, you don't have a mental illness, when you're emotionally stable, when you're in a relationship, when you literally have life figured out. Well, that is when you are allowed, almost, we feel allowed to love yourself, allowed to be confident. Someone that's a little bit messier, and like, okay, for an example, let's say that there was an individual who is an alcoholic, right? Or something. Most likely or rarely, you're going to hear that person go, "Oh, I love myself," right? Like,
Right.
I love myself, but I always think maybe that's the problem.
Mm.
It's almost that idea that I have to become, of course. And by the way, I'm just using this as an example
Yeah.
that, of course, addiction is unhealthy and, will bring you down a very dangerous path in life. But it's the idea that people assume that they should hate themselves.
Mhm.
Maybe it's that problem, though,
Yeah.
that they feel that they have to be better, to no longer, they have to be completely sober, and then they're going to love themselves. But that is not, that can set you up for disappointment in a lot of ways. If you love yourself for the broke, for not even, I mean, I don't have a problem with the word broken.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, for the hurt, the wounds, the openness, the cracks within you, and you become confident in that, you love those parts of yourself, it will be easier for you to believe to see the horizon.
Mm.
Like, it's very difficult to see the horizon if you're constantly hating on yourself, and you're waiting for this day when you get to the mountaintops and your body is where you want it to be. This is what we've been taught. But self-love is your birthright. And trust me, and you probably know this too, as a woman with mental illness, it's 10 times a little bit more difficult, because you also have the stigma on top of it. But what I realized was, I gave up on that day. I said, forget about it. That day where it's like, I got to be the weight, I got to be this, I got to be that, because guess what? It was never going to be good enough. I was still going to think I was morbidly, like, overweight if I was underweight, no matter what weight, no matter where I was in life, it was consistent. And that meant that it wasn't going to be anything like that. It had nothing to do with things on the outside, which is a cliche. It comes from within.
Mm.
But it was about, for me, acknowledging the parts of myself that are, again, I don't have a problem saying broken. A lot of people will go, "No, you're not broken." I'm like, well, the thing is that there are cracks and wounds in me. And like, if there's a Hemingway said, or yeah, Hemingway or Van Gogh, Hemingway, the light, the cracks are how the light gets in.
Oh, yes.
Yes, that quote. I might be paraphrasing it, but that is extremely true. That if you can find and fall in love with yourself, here's the thing, is if you're going through depression, if you're anxious, if you live with mental illness, I give you permission. You are allowed to love yourself. You are allowed, and you have to speak it out loud.
Yeah.
It's not easy. You just have to continuously say, "I love myself. I'm not a bad person." You have to completely take the thoughts and the self-hate and look at it as though it's outside of you, and force yourself to tell yourself the opposite story.
Yeah.
I'm depressed right now. I'm low, but I am not a bad, incapable person. I am experiencing this, but
Yeah.
I love myself even when I hate myself, and no one's going to rob me of that. I am empowered by these parts. I am empowered by my emotions. For me right now, I have vices. I have unhealthy habits in many ways. There are, a lot of things that I'm still trying to heal, but I'm still allowed to love myself. I'm still allowed to be confident in the fact that I have insecurities. It's kind of backwards.
Yeah.
So that's how I view self-love. I define it as loving yourself as you are right in this moment, that
Yeah.
you're listening to this podcast, that you're reading those words, not, loving yourself, when you get to that point of
Yeah.
whatever,
Like the myth of perfection, right?
Yeah,
And
the myth of perfection. Yeah.
yeah. And if we go back to the, an alcoholic, or, ways that were, illnesses or whatever, you're more likely to seek, help or want
Exactly.
better for yourself if you can love yourself and have compassion. I love my therapist right now. She makes me do things that make me so uncomfortable and seem ridiculous when I explain them to people, but they're so powerful, where I had to talk to my anxiety, right? I had to talk to my anxiety and recognize that my anxiety showed up and like loved me through something, because it thought it was keeping me safe, right?
Yes.
And I had to tell my anxiety, like, we're not like that anymore. I got
Yes.
this, right? So thinking about it, like, maybe you've been through something traumatic. Maybe you have an addictive personality. Maybe all these things. So have compassion for her or him or they.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
and, and then I think that flips a switch, that you believe that you're worthy of good things.
Yes. Yes. Like again, I'm in my 30s, and here's the thing though, is we are all children, truly. We're all children seeking to be seen. We're all children seeking to be loved, and I think that's extremely powerful, and like what you're saying, in personification. And another way that I think about it too is and for anybody that would do this, is sometimes I close my, not even close my eyes. I mean, you can close your eyes, but I imagine myself as a child. Because for a long time, it was hard for me to look at pictures of myself as a cute little kid, because it made me sad for some reason, because I knew what was ahead, and like the self-hate, because like when you're a kid, you're not quite there.
Yeah.
Well, I think about it and I say, would you say this to that cute, adorable little kid version of you that's sitting right there? Or maybe you have nieces and nephews. I have nieces and nephews, and I can tell you right now, I would never, ever, I would go after a person that ever said to them something like what I say to myself. And I think that's another technique where you got to remember, like, look at your inner child, unlock it. What would you say that to them? Do you see that? Do you see? No, probably not. Maybe some people, I mean, for me, it helps. But I think
Oh,
looking
yeah.
at it like that.
Yeah. Did you see, I loved that trend on Instagram where people were like, I do it for her. I actually never did it when it was trending, but I don't care about that. I want to do that again. And it inspired me to find pictures. So I have one when I was 7, and then I have one where I was the most, where I think probably things were starting to, develop more and
Yeah.
be more outward symptoms. And I actually have them on the mirror in my bedroom. So I see them and I'm like,
Wonderful.
there's little Shaley,
There
there's,
she is.
and I'm like, yeah, I have so much compassion for them that I'm trying to transfer that into myself.
Right.
And here's the thing. Brains can be tricked. You can fake it till you make it with self-love. And I know that sounds terrible, but I remember, like, I would roll my eyes when I would say beautiful things to myself, or I would, like the affirmations. I wouldn't do it before because I was like, oh, right. But it's so powerful. You can trick your brain. You really can in certain
Absolutely.
ways. And I don't mean in that you can heal yourself out of bipolar disorder. I
No, but
mean,
you're exactly right.
in reframing things, like you just can. And I just think, yeah.
It's delusional. You can be delusional in that like way of you're not feeling, like one thing my therapist had told me to start doing that's very awkward. I'm not a conceited or vain person, but she said when someone compliments you or like says something like, oh, you look really good today or something, the first thing is going like, I know. Like not in a snotty way, but going like, thank you. Like, I know. Yeah, I like have been feeling myself lately. And people will sometimes, it sounds, but it has helped because I'm speaking. You almost want to step into a character.
Yeah. My 18-year-old daughter, we love her. She's neuroatypical in different ways, and she will I'll tell her, like, "You look beautiful. Are you" and she's like, "Yeah, I do." And I'm
I
just like,
love
I
it.
love it. For me, I find with, a lot of women, like, I'll say I say things like, "Yeah, but you should have seen me earlier." I'm trying to, like or
Yeah,
do you
me
know what I
too,
mean?
right.
And
No,
I
no, I'm not like, "Oh, no, I am not that not right now," like, "Oh, I gained 5 pounds," it's like we completely
Yeah, yeah,
go the
and I
opposite.
realized that I did it, 1, because I believe it, but 2, I'm trying to make the other person feel, like, comfortable, and I even practiced it today because you said some being really nice things to me, and I just said instead, I said, "Oh, thank you, that made me feel so good," whereas a part of me wanted to be like, like, "Oh, but you should see my hair in the morning," or do you know what I
Right.
mean? It's, or
Mhm.
just saying thank you. My
Just
husband just
saying thank
says,
you.
"Stop, just say thank you," and I'm just
Yes,
like, "Okay." And it's
so
uncomfortable,
important.
but it starts to come naturally, and you're right,
Yeah,
as women especially, if a dude does that, it's like, "Oh, he's confident." If we do it, we're,
exactly,
like, self-centered or you know what I
exactly. Oh,
mean?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What are some other things that you do or that have helped you along the way to love yourself more?
Yeah. Okay, so definitely I will say, there are a lot of great self-help books.
Mm,
And books that of course there are ones that in I don't want to say frou-frou, but like ones that in my opinion are like, yeah, but does it work? And I will tell you that one great book that has helped me with the anxiety and coping with it, it's called the Dialectical Behavioral Therapy book, the DBT. It's one of the biggest, and it is a workbook, and it keeps it very real about like the anxiety that we feel when we fall into hating ourselves, and it gives you like a lot of techniques. That workbook's the best I've ever done. It's great. It's
okay.
helped me with regulation. And then I remember the first self-help book, because I was like, self-help books now.
Yeah, same,
The
same.
fir- yeah, the first one that I wrote, I mean, read, that really is the one that I think kind of got a spark on me, was called You Are a Badass, the first one by Jennifer Marshall. I
Love.
think no, not Jennifer Marshall. I'll have to, but it's called You Are a Badass. And I read it years
Is
ago.
it yellow?
Yep.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. And she says some things in there that are very powerful. One that always captivated me was, what other people think of you is a reflection of them, not you. And she says, like, right, like a reflection of what they believe. It's the equivalent to, okay, if I don't necessarily like country music, all right, I don't.
Yeah.
Does that mean country music sucks? Does that mean country music is bad? Does that mean Garth Brooks is a horrible singer? No. It simply means that that is not my style. That is not
Yes.
something I write. Right. It doesn't mean it's bad. Of course not. I mean, it's a great industry. Millions of people love it, and just it's amazing. But it depends on the person. So, anyways, that's a good way to look at it. So, books and those kinds of resources, poetry and quotes, and just like self-love, social media,
Yeah.
body image ones. There's so many models, there's so many body image, women that are talking about loving yourselves. I mean, like, I could name a ton, and that talk about even with aging, and there's all these new advocates for a different type of self-love. So the books that, and like you said, honestly, the self-talk in the daily delusional way of constantly, the best way to be delusional is to be it in the direction of loving yourself. And when I begin to feel those thoughts of self-hate, you got to pull yourself back down to hate, to earth. And sometimes, like, I just imagine it as like a tornado of all of those thoughts just going, but it's outside of me. It's
Yes.
not me, it's moving away, like, remember. and it's moving away. And it's just about the language you talk to yourself every single day, incorporating either self-help, texts or books or social media, consuming something that makes you feel more powerful. Also, not consuming social
Yes.
media. I have taken a break. I always tell people, if you are following accounts that make you feel insecure, you should not follow them.
Yes, diversify your feed, right? That is
Diversify
powerful for
your
me
feed.
because I don't take breaks because it's my lifeline, unless we go camping or whatever.
Yes.
But I intentionally show up. Also, it's like kind of my job.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and but I had to be like, oh, I had all these things that I was aspiring to. And I was like, they aren't
Exactly.
feeling me inspired. Like, I now think I need an infinity pool. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Right? Like,
Right. Exactly.
I need to have
Exactly.
these things, but I started putting, like following self-love accounts. I follow like things that bring me joy. Like I follow like these pandas. Pandas are hilarious because it makes me laugh. And
Me
then
too.
all these like quotes or different things. And
Yes.
I found it helps because my feed is very much filled with mental health advocates
Yes.
and or people just sharing that have mental illness. So it can get heavy, right? And
Yes,
so
of
you have these
course.
things in there. And I follow a lot of body positivity things because
Yeah.
I too had disordered eating. And I find that, yeah, it did change things. People say that, but I was like, eh. And then I did it,
Yes.
and it does because our brains need all the reminders, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's why it's really good to go follow you
Yeah.
because that's one for me. Like, especially like I know either your face or the white square comes up in the little drawing. I'm like, oh, what am I going to read? And yeah, so my friends, go do that right now. And yeah, I think that's a really, really good one. One thing, my friend Vasavi that I've interviewed before, she has a book called Say It Out Loud. And I learned a lot from her because you can do that internally, but she talks about the power of hearing your own voice saying it. Even though you're like alone and talking out loud, she talked about like mixing what you're talking about, but saying it like out loud. And it was hard for me. And I'm
It's so
wondering,
true.
I'm going to do something really weird here and tell me if it's too weird. I'm wondering, so people tell me all these things and then I say I'm going to go do it. But what I thought was we could do a practice right now or maybe to show people that you can do it. Maybe we could say 3 things that we love about ourselves and then just take 30 seconds and hopefully the people listening could do it right now. Because I know I always say I'm going to put that practice into my life and I don't do it.
That's a brilliant idea.
Would you be willing?
Yeah, you know what? And I'll do it in a more, I'll do it in the sense of what has been on my mind, because I think that, if I just say like, I am beautiful, I'll give you like a real sense of like things that I'm being insecure
Yes.
about.
Yes. Do you need a minute to think?
No, I don't need a minute. I
Okay.
might not be able to do 3.
Yeah, no. And you know what? It's so funny that I do that because if people say 3 favorite or 3 this, I panic and I'm like, what are the most 3? So how about, I'm going to rephrase that. Say
Yeah.
some things.
Yeah. Okay, so like for an example, I've been talking to, I'm sure a lot of people could relate. Okay, so I've been talking to this guy,
Yeah.
and I don't know where things are going, and he hasn't texted me as much anymore, and I kind of have like, so my head has been telling me he's not into you, he's playing you, and also that like you're not basically he thinks you're not like smart
Yeah.
enough. I know this is okay. He thinks you're not smart, he doesn't like you, like he's not attracted to you. So the way that like I would do that, either I would write this out, I truly do, or as I say to myself, there's no evidence to prove that this is true. Even if he is feeling that way, he can feel that way, but I am beautiful and brilliant and strong and amazing. And I'm making an assumption about what this person believes. I don't know. I can't control that, but I can control that I am a badass and I love myself, and things will unfold as they will. And even if that sounded like kind of like all over the place, you're
No,
just
it
teaching
didn't.
yourself the things. Yeah. Because that's like a real life
Yes.
example how
And
you feel.
that's what we want, right? Instead of sometimes I did a series called What Anxious Things I Used to Think Were Hippy Dippy That Actually Work. And these are some of them, right?
It's great. It's great when you do it.
Yeah.
Like you, okay, wait a minute. And like you just talk it out with yourself.
Yeah. Well, and I try and tell people too, like, I am going to tell you to do a lot of things, and I am going to try and practice what I preach and
Oh
do a
yeah.
lot of things.
That's a
So
huge thing.
yeah, so I think mine would be, because I struggle with thinking that I like friends or new people. Just I struggle with thinking that I like people more than they like me. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah, so one of the things I tell myself to combat that is that, that I am worthy of friendship, and I am fun, and I think I'm hilarious. And I try and tell myself those things. And like you, I remind myself, like, just because like I feel hypomanic and I want to send them like 25 texts, and my friends know this is they tell me like, "Oh, we love it and we love to know you're in that place," and whatever. Just because they don't send me 25 back doesn't
Right.
mean that they don't like love me and see that. So
Exactly.
mine is like, you're worthy of friendship, and
Yeah.
you are a good friend, because a lot of people, bipolar people aren't good friends or good partners. I
Or
combat that.
everything that's
Yes.
wrong. There's not much
Yes.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
people leave to the imagination.
Yeah. So I do that one. And then I I am like so confident in what I do and present, and I public speak like in front of 600 people or whatever. And then sometimes I'll get home and be like, what did I say? I'm an idiot. Like, look
Right.
everything off the internet, no, like it's not worthy or whatever. So, and same with, I'm really struggling right now with monetizing. The podcast has gotten big and the Instagram is big, and it's just me. And what I do is it's worthy of
1000%.
asking for, it's worthy of money. Let's just say it. It is worthy.
Of course it is. Of course. Why is it, here's the thing. Why is it as like activists, as people in this area, nobody else says that in other areas?
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
hey, I need to do my podcast, but there's something about we're the ones that should be able to do it more. But
Yeah.
there's like this fear that people think you will do it for something else. Bottom line is, to create more awareness, you have to pay your bills today in the world. Oh, you cannot. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Yeah.
So,
So it's the big one. And I don't do resolutions because I just am going to
oh, I
fail.
hate them.
Yeah. So I pick one word of the year, kind of a guiding word. Last year, the word was worthy.
I
And
love that.
yeah, so I'm really working on that. So that I we just want to give permission for you all to think, write down, say out loud
Mhm.
things, a belief that you believe, and combat it with a beautiful thought about yourself and
Yes.
a compliment, because the truth is we're all worthy as the messy, beautiful, terrible people that we are, right?
Yes.
It's a both and when you can love
Yes.
your shadow side, because we all have them. You
Yes.
can love that shadow side. It makes you want to, like you said, with the cracks, it makes you want to let the light in.
Yes. Yes. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. And yeah, I want to create more resources now that the book is done too. I see
Mm.
there's such a need when it comes to self-love, and specifically like with mental illness and stuff. So I love to like dive in that, because the thing is like you said, it's easy to say, okay, like love yourself, but people want like, all right, how do I
Like,
get
how do I do this? Tell me step
Yeah,
one,
yeah, tell
please.
me. Right. Right. And it's hard to do it, right? But I think that that's something I'd like to do because it's so important.
Yeah, yeah. I started doing this thing it was just for me. And then I put it out there on Instagram, and I call it Wednesday Wins. And I just say, I want to be your hype person. Let's all put down something we're proud of, right?
Yeah,
Because we tend to do that. And I thought, oh, people are just like, it's not going to be an interesting post. But I'm like, I'm going to do it, because if I say I'm going to show up on Wednesdays for other people, I'm going to show up more than for
that's
myself.
right. That's
And
right.
so people are answering and people are doing that, and it just gives me so much joy to see them, because sometimes, I say we can even find the littlest one. If yours is you got out of bed, or you moved from the bed to the
Right.
couch, or you changed your shirt, that is a huge win for you
Yes.
that day, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
from those things all the way up to the big things. And
Be
yeah,
easy on yourself.
yeah,
Be easy on yourself, give yourself compassion. Don't feel like you have to hate yourself because you can't get out of bed. These are things that have been ingrained in our head. So it's just breaking
yes,
them down.
yes, let's keep doing that. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm excited to see what you're going to work on next. And I am just going to marinate in your book,
Oh, thank
and
you.
your words are going to stick in my heart. So all y'all
Oh,
are going to be seeing me talk about it, and hopefully we can do things together again. Maybe we'll
absolutely.
collab on the interwebs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would love to have you once I get my blog kicked back up and stuff. I'm like trying to focus one thing at a time. This
Yeah.
thing they call focus in the normal world, I guess. But
Yeah.
I love what you're doing. And, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And anybody out there that has mental illness, or even if you don't,
Yeah.
you know, give yourself grace.
Yeah.
Love yourself as a person you are right now. Just tell yourself, like, all right, I love you, even if it's screaming in your head. You
Yeah.
will get there. You
You
will
will.
get there. But it's not easy, and
No.
nothing ever big like is easy.
Yeah.
It doesn't come
Yeah.
easy.
And going back to what we've talked about before, you don't arrive in self-love. It's a
No,
practice.
no,
Yeah, it's a practice.
no.
I wanted to mention, in talking about being a hype person, a hype girl, I want to be your hype girl. And I want to tell people what I didn't know until I started being friends with authors is that reviews are so important,
Yes.
especially on Amazon. And they lift things, and they're going to get Hannah's book into hands that
Yes.
need to be. So please read them, buy them. But also, I always forget too, so I'm trying to give reviews. Mine will be in Canada, but there's a Amazon in Canada as well. But just these reviews support Hannah, support all of your friends with mental illness and all of their work. And so I remembered that. So please go give a 5-star review. Say something that touched you or something that you love. Hannah has another book. Go and get that one. And I just want everyone to celebrate you for all that you are.
Thank you so much. I am honored. I am touched. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. You are very special. And I am so happy I got to be a part of this today.
And I receive that.
Yeah.
That's me
Yes.
practicing. I receive it.
Thank you. Yes. You should have said, I know. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, it can come off bad sometimes,
I know. I know. It's funny. Awesome. Well, yeah, friends
Yeah,
forever. I am so excited for people to see this. Please leave comments if you have questions for Hannah, if you have questions for me.
absolutely.
We want to hear from you. Our biggest thing, I can tell, is connection. And so
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
And have a messy and beautiful day, everyone.
Yes. Yes. Bye.
Bye. Thanks again for tuning in. You can find video versions of This is Bipolar on our YouTube channel. We also have all our previous episodes of the podcast on Apple, Podbean, Spotify, and Google Play. We spend most of our time on Instagram at this.is.bipolar. There is a vibrant community there where we have conversations and post different ideas and different strategies, and we'd just love for you to join us there. It is so helpful if you enjoy our work or think it would be helpful to someone if you could like and share and save and follow us in all or any of those spaces. If you're a listener for the podcast, if you could leave a review, we would be forever grateful. Again, thank you for being here with us. Let's get the word out. Let's share lived experiences so that we can change the ideas that people have about bipolar and help those of us that live with it feel less alone. This is Bipolar.